When Pope Leo XIV first stepped onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, the world watched with hope. He seemed different, gentler, more serene. His words were filled with references to God, and his tone was calm, kind, and peaceful. People in Rome said he carried himself with a sense of quiet holiness. He didn't seem harsh or rigid. Instead, he appeared thoughtful, pastoral, and deeply rooted in faith. For many Catholics, this was the kind of pope they had prayed for. His speeches were strong, faithful, and full of conviction. He sounded like someone who truly believed in the teachings of the Church and someone who would defend them. If you only listened to his words, there was little reason for concern. But as time has gone on, his actions, especially in leadership appointments, have started to paint a more complicated picture. One of the first signs came early in his pontificate, when Pope Leo appointed a new bishop in San Diego. At first, many welcomed the decision. The bishop had previously served as an assistant in the diocese and was known for his dedication. But soon after his promotion, things began to shift. Instead of focusing on the spiritual needs of his flock, the new bishop began speaking frequently about political topics, especially immigration. While these issues are certainly important, many Catholics felt he was stepping outside the traditional role of a shepherd. His focus seemed to move away from the heart of the Church and toward the court of public opinion. The question arose, why had Pope Leo chosen him? Then came an even more surprising appointment, this time in Australia. The Pope named Bishop McKinley as the new Archbishop of Brisbane, one of the most prominent church positions in the country. Till then, Bishop McKinley had served in the Diocese of Sandhurst in Victoria. Outside of Australia, few had heard of him. But among church leaders, he was respected for his academic background and his experience in interfaith dialogue. Shortly after the announcement, photos of Bishop McKinley began circulating online. Many noticed that he dressed more casually than most Latin Rite bishops often, appearing without the traditional Roman collar. This sparked conversation. In the Catholic Church, clothing isn't just fashion, it reflects tradition, identity, and reverence. His casual appearance led some to wonder what kind of leadership he would bring to Brisbane. Australian Archbishop Timothy Costello praised the appointment. He pointed to McKinley's years of service, his leadership abilities, and his work in dialogue with other Christian denominations and religions. But soon, a deeper concern emerged. In a podcast interview, Bishop McKinley made a passing comment. If the Church ever allowed women to become deacons, he said he would welcome it. That one sentence ignited a wave of debate. The question of women deacons is a sensitive one. It touches on centuries of church teaching and deep theological roots. While the bishop was not calling for change, his openness raised red flags, especially given his rising position in the Church and his involvement in the Synod on Synodality. Where major discussions about church governance are underway, too many. This felt like more than a personal opinion. It sounded like a signal. And then, earlier this year, controversy followed him again. In the cathedral where he served, a spiritual art installation was unveiled called The Wands. Created from a fallen tree, the 5 sculptures bore mystical names: the amoeba, the bowl of plenty, the river of tears, and transcendence. One sculpture even referenced a wounded healer who carries souls across a river, a concept foreign to Catholic doctrine and closer to non-Christian spirituality. The sculptures were installed during Lent, one of the most sacred seasons in the Church. Many faithful Catholics were outraged. The language surrounding the exhibit seemed disconnected from Christian truth. Some even said the symbols resembled imagery from tarot cards. A Catholic group, Family Life International, publicly criticized the display. They asked, why was this allowed in a sacred space? The bishop had approved the installation. When complaints came in, people received automated replies that described the artwork as part of a larger public event. The responses were polite, but didn't address the deeper concerns. Eventually, the bishop asked the artist to modify the language used online, but by then the damage had been done. For many Catholics, this wasn't just about art. It was about what the Church stands for and what it allows inside its holy places. Despite the controversy, Pope Leo promoted Bishop McKinley to Archbishop. Many were stunned. Some even began calling for the bishop's resignation. But it's important to understand, these appointments are not accidents. Pope Leo was once the head of the Vatican office responsible for selecting bishops. He knows this process. He likely made the appointment with full awareness of McKinley's history. At the same time, the Vatican launched a new push for donations through Peter's Pence, the annual appeal that helps fund the Pope's charitable works. A video campaign encouraged Catholics to give, using beautiful imagery of hope and unity. The message was simple: support the mission of the Church. Some welcomed it, but others voiced skepticism. On social media, many Catholics said they were hesitant to give. They asked where the money was really going. They said they wanted to support the Pope, but they also wanted clarity. Some commented that they'd feel more confident donating if the Church openly supported the traditional Latin Mass again, or if it stopped making confusing or troubling leadership decisions. This sentiment reflects a growing trend. More and more Catholics are saying personnel is policy. In other words, the people chosen to lead the Church reveal its direction more than speeches ever could. Actions matter. Appointments matter. And when leaders who spark controversy are promoted, it sends a message. What that message is remains unclear. This is not just about one bishop. Across the world, debates are intensifying. In Germany, some church leaders are calling for radical reform. Some even suggest changes that touch core Catholic beliefs. They say the Church must change to survive. Others warn that such reforms risk turning the Church into something unrecognizable. Meanwhile, Pope Leo continues to speak of synodality, a word that many Catholics still struggle to understand. Does it mean greater listening? More discussion? Or does it point to a shift in church teaching? So far, the direction seems less about tradition and more about change. Pope Leo has been careful in his language. He speaks like a faithful shepherd. But the decisions he makes, especially in choosing leaders, is difficult questions, and so many Catholics are watching. Closely, prayerfully, they're asking, will this be a church that holds to its traditions? Will it defend the truths that have shaped it for 2,000 years? Or will it shift with the tides of culture? The answers may not come quickly. One thing is clear: this is not a time for silence or passivity. It is a time for discernment, courage, and prayer. The future of the Church is not only shaped in Rome, it is shaped in the hearts of the faithful. We must pray for our leaders. We must speak the truth with love. Above all, we must stay anchored, just as Don Bosco's dream taught us to. The Eucharist and the Blessed Virgin Mary, because no matter the storm, the Church is not ours to abandon. It is Christ's, and He will never leave it.